I'd like to bring on stage Mr. Stevie Holl.
1, 2, 2, hey. Hey, there we go, it works.
Okay.
Did I ruin the entrance then? Did I come on too early?
No stranger to the stage. So is it Stephen or Stevie or...
I reply to most things, not all pleasant, so...
anything not unpleasant, okay, thank you. So the reason why we've invited Steve, I thought it was very important. Well, actually, it wasn't me. It's the content here has largely been driven by feedback that we've, had from members. And one of those things that also, we discovered is how important mentorship is. But this idea of having access to people's perspective who are doing or who have done, who are doing really one of the sort of key things that's important for our music ecosystem, which is about having content, bands and artists, and for them to flourish and be successful. So they can be booked for our venues and delight audiences in Lancashire. So, Stevie.
Yes.
We'll land on Stevie. Could you tell us a little bit about Massive Wagons? I think, what you're doing and how you do it is kind of what we're going to talk about. But I think it's good to sort of try and understand why Massive Wagons are successful. And I guess that's kind of what I'd like to try and slice into.
I can certainly try.
Okay, wonderful. So, the first thing is, how did you join the band? Because the band existed before you, I believe. Give us a little bit of context.
Yeah, the band's been together since 2009, formed in Lancaster and Morecambe, so we're all Lancaster lads, just up the road. And I've been coming up for 8 years now, so the guitar player before me was sort of let go, and the lads knew me from the local area because Lancaster, it's a bit small, everyone seems to know each other. Everyone and everyone's mum is a musician, so it's quite a close-knit musician community. They knew me from playing local pubs because I was playing all the music their dads listened to, and they were seeing us. And they came to a point where they obviously let go of their guitar player, and they knew I liked all the same stuff they were doing. They were very much in the original route sort of scene at the time, but they'd only just got out of the point of playing covers in their sets. Because I think some bands, especially on our local scene, they don't like to mix the covers and originals together because I think some musicians get in their head that, no, we're not a covers band, we're an original band. But the best way to get people following your band and to come out and see you is to play covers, because not all music listeners, but most are a little bit lazy, as you've probably noticed. If they hear a song they already know, they're more than happy to go out and listen to it. Some of the rules in some of like the local pubs in Lancaster used to be, we don't want any originals, we only want covers. So the trick around that was just don't tell anyone it's an original. Just play it and tell them at the end you play some originals. Because then you don't get a look from behind the bar. Because there's millions of songs, nobody bloody knows. Just play them. Oh, it's a really obscure Scandinavian band. Anyway, so we did some of them, and I was asked to fill in just for 6 gigs. Well, it's 8 years down the line, we've done considerably more than 6 gigs since, so I must be doing an all right job.
So that was the audition process?
That was the audition process, yeah, and I obviously didn't get it wrong.
The band works at a very high level, creatively. I think that's, maybe it would be just, I've mentioned that you've had 3 top 10 albums.
Yeah, so...
You are quite successful. Can you sort of contextualise your level of success?
Yeah, so I pretty much joined just as the band was about to sign the record contract with E-Rate Records in Nottingham. I signed just around that time, and I saw it change from... It was, we concentrate on playing gigs. We were playing sort of 50 to 100 cap-size gigs. And from that moment, there was sort of like an immediate drive behind it, a bit of a push from the record label to kind of get going with it. A lot more push on promoting and a lot more push for you're not just releasing an album, you're now pushing a product. And along with that comes a lot more intense playing. So like one thing we were pushed into there was releasing that album. We were pushed into record store sort of releases, go out, play, do 2 gigs a day, one in the afternoon, one in the evening. We did, is it Blitz? Yeah. Blitz in Preston, did the back room in there promoting that album. And that was the first proper run into weeknight gigging. which is something you generally tend to put off because weekend gigs are so much easier. Less fighting at work. Well, I've got a very understanding boss. Thank you very much, David. So that was very much into a first, right, you're going to play 10 gigs in 5 days. All right, cool, straight out into it. And that goes into a good mindset of like, right, this is the step up from sort of like a casual band situation into, if you're going to get into this, you've got to push. And it's quite a head reset as well, because it's pushing from being like a casual thing into, all right, this is actually becoming work now. But as long as you all get on, it doesn't feel like work.
So was there like a band decision, what was the sort of mindset before? Was it someone else who came along and then forced you to increase your productivity, or was the band ambitious? Was that, how did you even get the record deal? What were the processes to those milestone, achieving that milestone?
The record deal actually came about, sadly, from Rick Parfitt from Status Quo passing away. And then just before I joined the lads in the band, wrote a track called Back to the Stack, because Rick Parfitt passed away, but it was the same year that David Bowie passed away. Lots of big names passed away. He sort of just swept away. So in the rock and roll world, Rick Parfitt was a big name to the band because we're massive Status Quo fans. So Barry and Adam went away and wrote a song and released it, and it just happened to be picked up by the Status Quo fan club. And from that, got to Planet Rock. And from that, Digby Pearson of E8 Records heard it. So it was all purely a random sequence of everything just happening to come together. And that was the point where the band started going up, really. It was just that sheer luck of it being picked up and getting out there, people getting behind it.
So a series of activities that, yielded momentum.
Exactly, yeah. And from a song that was never put out intentionally for that, it was just a bit of a, it feels like it's been a bit forgotten. We'll put something out, and it just got traction. Like a lot of things in the industry, a lot of things, you'd like to say a lot of it happened on purpose. Some things do just happen by accident, and they just start rolling.
So I think that kind of also answers a question about how you, or alludes to how you developed your audience. I was asking some, aspiring musicians what they would ask you today, and one of them said, "Well, how do you go about from having no audience to, developing, and how do you get people to come and see you, kind of thing?"
It's a little bit of a, as I said, doing the covers thing and doing originals was one's trick, really, because once you start singing along to your originals, you've got them, without realising. But it's just being a bit relentless. Go to places nobody really goes. So, like, in the early years of Wagons, they'd settle from Lancaster, they'd go around to Barrow, Whitehaven, places that not many bands tend to go out to, where gigs don't really tend to happen. If you go there, where nothing tends to happen, they will come and see you because there's nothing else to do, and they will appreciate that you've gone there. And if you keep going back, it will get bigger every time. And word gets around,
Yeah, I'd like to think that's a message to agents who don't have Lancashire on the touring circuit for, it'd be great if we got more consideration. Yeah. But I think, it's a really good point. So did you notice when you were playing these smaller places, your fan base growing? Were you seeing numbers going up in terms of people clicking on you? And
yeah, it was weird. You sort of see a face at a gig randomly, doing a run of 10 gigs, and then you see them like 2 or 3 gigs later when you were, passing by about 20 miles away, something like that. It was just sort of like, I think authenticity has a lot about it. I mean, we're not very different off stage as we are on stage, and interacting with your audience is the most important thing. So social media is great, but if anyone has taken the time to come out and see you, if you go up and talk to them and thank them for being there, they will come back next time. They will bring a friend, and then just, there should never be an act. It should just be yourselves being friendly. Probably helps we are from Lancashire. We're just very friendly people. Yeah. Just take it everywhere.
Yeah, we are. We are, definitely. It's interesting, that idea of, being yourselves. And I think relatable.
Yeah.
People are kind of buying into that and happy to support you. Yeah.
There's no fakery to it. And people, especially in the rock world, they sort of love a backstory, and they love they love when you love where you're from, sort of thing. So like we've had countless merch where we've had like the Lancashire Red Rose on it. We've had callbacks to Lancaster. Even on some of the album artworks, we've had, on the last one, Earth to Grace, it's a black and gold cover, but we've got red roses along it. So, and we always shout about Lancaster. We were recently on a cruise ship in the Bahamas for a Monster Rock cruise, telling everybody we were from Lancaster. Nobody had any bloody clue where it was, but we were still telling them we were from Lancaster. Sort of War of the Roses, that's all we could sort of tell them. And they were like, oh, yeah. So, you don't really know, do you? But you're pretending it's all right. It's keeping true to that. It's because any band can say you're from the nearest big city, but if you've come across authentic, people can see right through, the bullshit, really. If you're authentic and you're clear and you love where you come from, people can really tell you've got a sense of pride about it. And we love being from it. It's a bloody great place to be a band. I mean, Christ almighty, you've got 3 hours up to Glasgow, 4.5 hours down to London. What a great base to be in a band.
So I guess ultimately, one of a question that I have is, I guess, a number of questions, which is, about, I guess in part, why do people like you? But it's what makes you distinctive? What is, why do your records stand out? And then I'm going to ask you about shows.
I mean, some of that's down to our singer Baz, because we've got a proper bee in our bonnet about generic lyrics about absolutely nothing when you read into them. He sings, he writes and he sings from a place from the heart, really, about actual issues. Like we've got a lot of songs about sort of mental health, for example. Like on the last album, this resonated with a lot of people. We had a song called Night Skies, which is about fighting with your mental health. We had the comedian Nick Helm in the music video for that, and he wanted to be in that. And we took out on tour last year Andy's Man Club, who speak about men's mental health. They came out every night, so we had the opening band, and then they came out and did sort of like a 10, 15-minute talk. We had stands up, we were doing promotion. We were just really trying to get the word out there about everything, about essentially real issues that people connect with. I mean, you can sing all you like about going down to a pub and having a few drinks, but when you actually sing about what connects with people, that's what resonates. And that's the point of being real. You're not selling rubbish to people. You're genuinely connecting. Yeah. And once you've got that, once you've connected with somebody, it's not like a passing fad. If somebody really gets into your band, really connects with your messages, you've built a solid fan who's there. And you just don't change on your ways. Like there's a lot of passing fads, cool for a minute. I mean, Wagons has been a slow rise. But it's a true rise with real connections. Yeah. If it had been like that, would have been, I wouldn't be here talking. We'd be long gone, sort of thing.
Yeah, not a flash in the pan. So
yeah,
authenticity. I think that's what I'm getting, and relevance. So your authenticity is speaking to, and that's in your records. That's your
it's all over them, and and I think it's a bit. We connect with a lot of different listeners because it used to be you were in your clique. If you played rock, you only listened to rock. If you listened to metal, if you listened to pop, you only listened to pop. Whereas nowadays, especially with sort of like Spotify's, your Deezers, everything like that. I mean, if anyone takes a look at your own playlist, you'll see an absolute amalgamation of all sorts of genres. Don't be afraid to cross it anymore, because we a good song is a good song. When I joined the band, I only listened to rock and metal. Since joining the band and having my eyes open to a good song is a good song, I listen to bleeding everything, absolutely everything.
Yeah. So that's your record. Shows. Why are your shows so good?
And I'm not saying anything bad about how a lot of modern music is, but there's a lot of, I don't exactly want to say dependency on tracks, but there's a lot of everything stuck to how it is. Everything, every show could be the same. It's just insert city here, and then back to the rest of the set. Our shows are completely back to the bare bone, just rock and roll shows, really. I've pushed Baz off stage. I've fallen over. Amps are blown up. Things have set on fire. It's all a good last smile through it, crack on, and then that person's been there. I was there that night. It's sort of like I think we bring an air of. We're not trying to be cool, because we're not cool. We're just we just play our music. if you have a good night, bloody brilliant, and everyone involved in the room, we're there as one collective.
Well, not everyone can be as cool as me, Steve. What are you laughing at? Right. Okay. So the shows again authenticity. You know,
Proper rock and roll. If it goes wrong, sort of like when we did Nottingham Rock City on the first night of the last tour, and we got to the very end of the set, and somebody passed out right in front of us, literally right before the last chord, and it was almost like right, everyone stop. So I turned around for a second. It's like, kind of kill our big ending, that, isn't it? That's twat a chord. Right, good night, everyone. That was basically it. So it's like that was an experience for everyone in there. It's like there's no backup plan. We just kind of like bit right. We're just 5 mates on stage, really, and you can tell there's no choreography because we're all crap dancers.
So chemistry.
Chemistry, yeah. I mean, we are just 5 mates. I mean, it's weird how many bands we've toured with along the years that do not get on with each other.
Yeah.
Members do not get on. And we've never had a fight, which I think is quite rare, because I couldn't imagine a worse experience than going on tour with people I can't stand. Because when you're in the back of a smelly van, or you're in a dressing room dressing room, it's a toilet, and you're having to share that space. If you can't stand each other, I couldn't imagine anything worse.
Yeah. Okay, image. So I mean,
we have people direct us on image because you can see I've dressed myself today. Generally black, all black. Singer can dress colourfully. So
kind of in keeping with
the
vibe and style.
Yeah, the vibe of just like we're not trying to be anything really.
You're not overthinking it.
But don't overthink anything really.
Okay, interesting. And so media, how things look. What about what are your thoughts on digital media? Do you spend a lot of time thinking about that? Is it other people mainly sharing footage of you at shows? Do you do videos or?
We've learnt the valuable lesson of letting people who know what they do it.
So you have. So is there a team? Is the record label engineering that?
We've tried doing a lot of it ourselves. I mean, we still just try and film as much stuff as possible. But the problem we found with that is, as soon as anything funny happens, or as soon as anything interesting actually happens, like generally you've all been involved in doing it and nobody's been filming anything. You think, oh, that would have been great to put out as a bit of social media. That'd been grand. So even if you just get your mates to come down and just film a little bit, as bored as they may be, give them a slice of pizza afterwards, they'll be fine. It's just good to have a bit of sort of behind the scenes, because music has sort of lost its. Now you've got access to social media and online. Of course, you hear all the old stories of the old rockers, like Ozzy Osbourne's, Guns N' Roses, all the debauchery that went on, where it was all just word of mouth. You couldn't actually prove anything. Whereas now everybody knows everything there is to know about bands. There's no sense of mystery anymore. So you've got to try get across the actual interesting bits, because anyone that's done a load in and a load out will know it's not the most exciting thing to film or to be at.
So it's keeping it real.
Keeping it real.
Like
I mean, it's
your approach.
Yeah, if you speed it up by 1.5 speed, it makes it look a lot more interesting. Bit of shake on the camera. That's what one thing we've learned. And just getting lots of footage with your actual fans, with people who have seen the light, who get it, because them trying to sell your band will mean a lot more to somebody watching it than going, "Hi, I'm the guitar player, Massive Wagons. You should listen to us." But actually, seeing anyone lined up for a gig or just at a gig, just asking, "What do you like about this band?" Get honest answers and put them out, obviously with permission. Yeah. But that's one way to get across. Cause it's seen as unbiased. Then it's a real sort of push.
Self-praise is no recommendation, but other people bigging you up.
Exactly.
Saying it's better. Yeah, I agree. Okay. So management. Does the band have management? How did you get management?
We've got management. Terry at Rock People Management, who I'm sure if Rock People Management's on socials and everything, feel free to hit out to Terry. She's great. Terry is actually our singer's partner. So I'm lucky I get to deal with band business and go home. Baz gets to sing in the band and then go home and talk about band business. So I actually get an escape. But it's quite nice to have somebody who's that involved with the band helping, because obviously if the band does well, she does well. She wants the best for the band.
And you can trust her.
And we can trust her, yeah. So and we do everything in house as well. I mean, that's an important thing to remember. Like Wagons, we're a fairly sizable band now. We're playing sort of like 1,000, 1,500 cap venues comfortably in the UK, but we're still doing all the merch in house. Still distributing all that ourselves. Still doing as much as we can because I meet up with mates for a pint every now and then, and they always think, "Are you still working?" Yep. Yeah, I'm still working. But I've seen the gigs you've been doing. You've been full. It's like, yep. Yeah. Any way you can save expenditure is a good investment, really. Put some stamps on things. It's fine.
Do you do good on merch? Is that a valuable? Do you place importance on that, and you make good money from it?
Well, live and merch is pretty much the only place where bands make money now, because obviously the record industry there's just no money in that, and anything that is to be made out of that will be made by the record labels themselves, basically.
Got decent streaming numbers though.
Decent streaming, yeah, but it's almost a.
Do you do physical? You doing record?
Yeah, we do a lot of vinyl. That's the nice thing about some record contracts is that when you end them, they only have them for a certain period of time. So a couple of years ago, we re-released one of the older albums. That was entirely self-released, and then that helped fund a lot of the European tour we've just done. It's all sort of robbing Peter to pay Paul, really.
So it's interesting. I mean, I was kind of planning on asking you about the chemistry of the band, but it just sounds like you're a bunch of mates and you all get on and you all pull in the same direction. And
yeah,
do you argue?
I can't actually even think of a time we've even been close to an argument, which I know sounds made up, but it's really, I think it's because we just recognise that when we are away on tour, we recognise when each other needs a little bit of either space, just go walk on your own or just something like that. We just talk about things. I mean, that's another part of like doing the whole Andy's Man Club thing as well, is that we're a band that actually talk to each other about things. We don't let anything get too far. If we see somebody struggling, we actually raise the issue, which I think is a barrier that still needs breaking down. It's getting better, but it's a barrier that still needs breaking down. And I think it's quite a nice community we built up with our fans as well. We hear a lot from them that it feels like a safe space, sort of like a family, where everyone's kind of on the same level. And I think that's because we have occasionally put our foot down for certain behaviours and let people know that that's not on. That's because that's not us. Because we want the fans to sort of reflect our beliefs as well, and for everyone to feel included.
Yeah, so that's really good. I think it'd be good to maybe see if there's any questions from the audience.
I've got one at the back.
Okay, let's go for it.
Is that one from the wonderful Ian at the Waterloo Music Bar?
It is. Thank you, Stephen. Obviously, you've been to the Waterloo a few times. You supported us, especially through COVID. You do the two-nighter.
I think you helped us out there, mate.
We were all sat down. Well, each. My question is, and it's related to agents. Now, we know the band are at the top of the chain, and then it's the management, then it's the agents, then it's the venue. Because the venue has to ask the agent your availability, and then it comes down to fees. Now, my question is, do the fees, if I offered a fee to the agent, do you hear about it? Because I've known through talking to a lot of other bands, when we've offered a fee for the venue, that the agent doesn't think it's enough, doesn't go back to the band and tell them. Therefore, the band loses out on a fee, the venue loses out on a good evening, a good night, because your shows, I know myself, could fund the payments of the bills, etc., like that, at the Waterloo for a month. So I'm just wondering, because I found it hard to deal with agents lately. A lot of bands want a lot of money, which a lot of them, they deserve it. Because I know, like you said, you're still in employment as well, aren't you? You brought your boss today for a day out. So my question is, do you know if you get to hear about all the fees that are offered?
It depends entirely on the agent. We've had some shit agents, and I will say that honestly, because everyone goes through crap people. We've also talked to people before about appearing as guests on albums, doing that guest vocals. People who we know who we've then seen, and they're like, oh yeah, we want you to be on this song, but we never heard, it was too much. It's like, what offer? Never heard an offer. Sometimes you've got to be careful with agents because a lot of the time they're trying their luck, especially if it's because they don't always look into. So I'm not slating all agents here, just the minority crap ones. Sometimes they're just trying their luck, either if it's too much effort for them to book the gig, or just to try and get a quick book out of the venue owners, and then the band show up and generally don't have any clue what's going on. I mean, we've had it before when we've seen festival organisers that have said, "Oh, we've sent an offer in, didn't hear anything back." It's like, "Oh well, this is the first we're hearing of it." We've had that with previous guys. Sometimes the smaller promoters are generally better for it, actually letting bands know. Because sometimes if you can be doing all right, but if you're the little fish in a big pond and promoters can't be bothered with the paperwork, we've had that before. Our new guy, Liam, though, is wonderful, and he at least speaks to us.
It's interesting, isn't it? Bands are probably more likely to say yes than agents.
Exactly,
but,
yeah.
They want to make as much money as possible. I think one thing that we really do need is more agents to home grow, more agents in Lancashire, and one of the sort of next things we'll be looking at is how we nurture and encourage more managers.
Yeah.
And sort of that actually they can be part of these conversations and understand the venue operator's perspective, the band's perspective, as well as their own.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose one thing we learned was when we were last going through changing sort of like promoter agent, was we'd gone from a couple that had been on, sort of with big companies promising a lot, generally didn't deliver anything because they just had the big names with them because they were just focusing on them. They could send out one of their big bands, make the money they need to. They've got these other bands on the roster, but they don't need to make the money that way. Whereas the guy we're with now, we're one of his bigger bands, and it's in his interest to get us out there gigging, to communicate with us, to deal with us. So a big name isn't always a big deal.
So would you say to the agent, these are venues we want to do, these are milestone venues?
Yeah, so we could be like, these are places we've aspired to play, or places we've played on support tours with bands, and we had a great time there. We think we could go now well. And
bearing in mind we're being filmed, is your agent delivering?
Yeah, well, what's it? I mean, sort of like we've been pushing in Europe a lot lately, and we've been with some big agents that had big connections to these festivals, and then always been, next year, sorry, couldn't get it this year. Our new guy, Liam, like we'd always wanted to play Wacken Festival. We've always had connections with, ones before. We said, always promised on it. And he went, I've got no connections to them, but there's this summit going on in Germany. I'll go along to that. I'll have a word. He got us Wacken, Rockars, Alcatraz, Mystic Festival, all these festivals that nobody else who had the connection seemed to be able to get. And he just went out there and he was just punching for us. He was like, I know I've got nothing to prove, but just listen. I've got this band. We can do it. And I personally just don't think he'd stop pestering them.
I think
it was easy just to book us and leave us alone.
I think Ian's question has a lot of other connotations. One of the things is when our bands are becoming successful, obviously we want to see them grow and do these great things, but we also want them to come back, don't we? And when they've got that sort of level of that cachet of fandom and so on. So I think it's worth always bearing that in mind. But you're clearly down to earth, approachable, and you probably didn't know that they were trying to book you and couldn't. So any other questions? We have one, Professor Mazieska.
Oh.
So we'll take one more question and then we'll move on to the...
Sorry for waffling, by the way.
No, it's really good. Thank you, Stevie. Really good.
Yes, my questions are a bit sort of simple. My first question is, do you make living now out of music, or do you have like other avenues of income? Because being successful not necessarily means that you can live off your music.
I mean, technically, it's both through music. So, obviously, I play in the band. I also work at Promenade Music in Morecambe, where, to be fair, Dave has been absolutely smashing with me, because I don't think there's many other employers where you can walk up to and go, hiya, mate, July, I'm going to be away for all of July. Is that all right? Just for, we'll make it work. So, it has helped, because honestly, it's sort of like, so two of the lads in the band are now employed by the band, because they run a Patreon, which is essentially turned into a massive fan club, Wagons World. Adam, the bass player, is a truck driver, so he can work on, as long as he gives a week's notice, he can give time off. Alex works for the railway and luckily can work remotely, so he just has the unfortunate thing on days off when we're on the bus in Europe on a nice sunny day having some beers and he's sat there on his laptop working. And it's sort of like, it balances out nicely, but, I'll often rock up home at about 8 o'clock in the morning, unload the trailer, and straight into work. I might look like a zombie, but I'm back there.
Helps you sell guitars, though, doesn't it? Shows you know what you're talking about.
Yeah. If I ever fall out of love with playing guitar, I'm absolutely buggered.
And maybe my second question, can I still ask it? So the second question is, did you sort of follow anybody in your business plan? You obviously present yourself, and I believe it, as sort of authentic artist who sort of, invents your strategy as you go along. But have you looked a bit at such issues?
In the past, I'd say in the past 18 months, we've actually had a plan. Before that, it wasn't exactly set your sights low, but it wasn't don't set your aspirations too high. I mean, when we were playing 50 to 100 cap clubs and we were getting 75 people in them, that was absolutely amazing. And it was just sort of like the slow progression of the band has just led to more and more. Because that album, we were pushing to get a top 40 with Full Nelson, and then it finished at number 18, which took us by surprise. And then the next, well, talk about sheer luck. I think we're a band of sheer luck. Just before the COVID lockdowns, we recorded our lead single was a song called "In It Together," which was basically about us meeting Ginger Wildheart on the Wild Hearts tour. And he was like, "Oh, as musicians, we're in it together." And then we filmed a music video. And then about a week and a half later, everything was locked down. And then the video came out, "In It Together," and it just seemed to be perfectly with the time. Not intentionally, it just came out and almost became a bit of a song for our fans, and that spread to other people. And that album, House of Noise was sort of an analogy for Baz about what's going on up here. Sort of like, oh, you're in a demons, everything's shouting and stuff. It's like, obviously a lot of people in that time were going through a lot of mental health issues because being locked up, it affected everybody. And a lot of people connected to that album because that was the very theme of it. And that was just another sheer luck. Couldn't have seen it coming. Just, it made it resonate with people. It's not all luck. You can do things business-wise, but we seem to be...
Yeah, it's interesting that you didn't have a business plan, but you did the right things.
Yeah, it was always general, like, promote the album, push it this way, but there was no grandeur scheme, sort of like, right, in 2.5 years' time, we're going to be, 2.5 years' time, Rock City level, and, going across to Europe, and we want to be 1,000 cap venues in Europe at this point. It was none of that. It was sort of just like, bit by bit as it comes, and it was the art of learning to say no to things as well. To learn to say no to offers. Right, you play this festival 2 years in a row, same slot. Do you want that again? It's like, no. What's higher? 9 times out of 10, they go, yeah, all right then. Yeah, we'll go do that. I'll do that then. Yeah. A lot of time, it's the power of the position on the poster.
Yeah. It sounds like you were being opportunistic. So as you were going along, you were kind of making that inform your decisions, and rather than having a sort of long-term vision or strategy. Both are effective.
I'm sure Terry had some sort of plan going along the entire way, but the band were just like, we'll keep writing these things. It'll just seem to happen.
Is there a band leader, or is it democratic, or
Baz and Adam tend to do more of the talking, which sadly you were left with me today. But we're sort of a collective, especially when it comes to songwriting decisions. It's always everything's a discussion. Nothing's ever told, right, you'll be doing this. It's all, and I think that's what helps us keep us all level and no arguments. Everything's a discussion with each other.
It's good to hear from the quieter member of the band, as if a guitarist could ever be a quiet member of a band. I think probably Stevie Holl, everyone. Thank you very much.
Thank you for having me.